necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Well, we're on. This is Steve Sanson and Christina Ortiz with Veterans in Politics. Our two guests are going to be Richard McArthur, candidate for Nevada State Assembly, District number 14. Or District number 4, excuse me. My eyesight.
You're getting old. That's why we keep me around.
Don't tell everybody. And then we're going to have Jim Marchant. What if that's French or something? Marchant.
Man, you can't pronounce the names.
Can't even
can't
pronounce
the
that name.
districts.
Candidate for Nevada State Assembly District number 37. Oh, it's been a bad day. You know, this past couple weeks is all funerals. Judge Scan.
Then we had Gia
Roselli. And then Scott Gormley's dad passed away. The owner of Scott Gormley is the owner of Rhythm Kitchen, and his dad, Charles Gormley, the owner of Hush Puppies, passed away. And then a good friend of mine, Jen Boyd Smith, her dad passed away a couple days ago.
So I'm actually going to sit over there because you're not bringing good mojo in. That's what I'm hearing.
No, you want to know something? So the first memorial I sat with, for Susan Scan, I sat with Judge Kephart, and today I sat with Judge Kephart.
So I'm not going to sit next to either of you. That's what I've got on this.
So I told Judge Kephart we got to stop meeting this way because it's bad mojo.
Definitely bad mojo.
Yeah. So how you been?
Better than you?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Apparently.
I haven't gone to any funerals, so I'll take that as a step up in my day.
Yeah.
Actually, I've spent all week and all morning canvassing for the different candidates out there and making it known that it's important for people to get out and vote, especially people my age, to get out and vote.
So your age, people are not interested in voting?
You know, that's the saddest part. And the saddest part is women that are not interested in voting. Because when you go to those really nasty places and they don't even have the option to vote or not vote, you realize what a blessing it is that you can change your ways, that you can change the system, that you can vote.
Right.
And when people take it for granted, it is the most irritating thing that I ever deal with in a day.
And I just want to let the listeners know that Jim Jonas is not going to be with us today because he's very tired.
That's very important to know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because they're probably saying, where's Jim Jonas?
I'm sure they are.
And I don't want to have to explain to everybody where Jim Jonas is, so I figured I'd just tell everybody where he is one shot. That way my phone doesn't ring.
I sure have Facebook.
You know the last time Jim Jonas wasn't here with us? My phone rang and somebody asked me, where's Jim Jonas?
It was my first show, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, last time. So I think it's just me. Jim doesn't.
And that was the show Gia Roselli was on.
Yep.
Yeah, imagine that.
I know.
Wow.
So we've come a long way now.
Absolutely. So you have any rants or anything like that?
No, you know, I really just, my big rants are, after working with the candidates, is the low turnout that we've had. In Democrats pay a lot of people.
They pay people to go vote?
They pay people to go out and register.
The Democrats do?
They do. Democrats.
You have proof of this?
I have proof that they pay people to go out and register people to vote.
So what the Republicans do, they scare them?
We volunteer. It's all heart. And
all heart.
This hopefully Senator Heck said it best, that he would take heart over paycheck. And I hope that when we go to the polls that people remember that it's heart, that it's not people who have had to go and pay, you know, to go register people. These are people who cared enough about it to go out and say, hey, are you registered?
Right.
So we're a battleground state, though, and it's important to remember it.
You got nothing else to say?
Nothing else.
Because last week you had a whole lot to say. Remember, I was trying to cut you off.
I know. Well, last week last week we were remembering Gia Roselli, and that was something that really touched my heart. Was Gia, and she was my first interviewee.
Right.
And so.
Right. Okay. And I did look up the first woman that ran for president.
Victoria from Ohio.
Of the United States. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you see it on my Facebook?
I did.
That's where everybody else found it, was my Facebook.
And then I looked it up to make sure that you were in the up and up.
Well, was I on the up and up?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, there you go.
All right. Well, folks, this is Steve Sanson and Christina Ortiz with Veterans in Politics. And we're going to come back with who? Who are we going to come back with? We're going to come back with Jim Marchant, who's a Nevada State Assembly candidate running for district number 37. We'll be right back, folks. All right, folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Christina Ortiz with Veterans in Politics. We have live in the flesh Jim Marchant, candidate for Nevada State Assembly District number 37. Mr. Marchant, how you doing today, sir?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Let's tell us a lot about you.
Well, I'm originally from Florida. Moved out here in 2005. Decided to get into politics within the last couple of years. Was involved in politics in Florida before I came. I didn't know if I'd get involved out here, but I guess I can't stay away from it because of all the ridiculous stuff that's going on in our government, the corruption.
Like what?
What's the most
Explain.
ridiculous thing you see then?
Well, things
Well,
like
same
the commerce tax last session.
Okay.
I'm a business guy. That's my background, business, and I understand what that's going to do to businesses, and I thought it was a bad thing. I fought against it the whole time they were in session, but we lost, and we even tried to repeal it. We lost that too. So those are the efforts that I'm fighting against, things like that.
And what about the corruption?
Well, maybe corruption's kind of harsh. Maybe cronyism's a little better word for that. That's something that's ingrained in the entire political structure of our country and even state. And not sure how to fight that other than just people like myself get in and just won't do it.
Okay. All right, continue with your bio.
A little bit more about you. What kind of business do you guys, what do you do in business?
Yeah, in 1984, I decided that I was a computer software genius. Really wasn't, I found out, but I did learned on the job. Had and ended up having a successful software company from 84 until about 96. And during that time, I also, in 94, while I was doing the software company, I also opened up one of the first internet service provider companies in Florida, actually in the country, because if you remember, 1994 was kind of when the internet was just beginning. And that kind of led me into politics because the Florida Department of Revenue wanted me to collect sales tax on my customers who was getting internet access from me. And I didn't agree with them. So I actually challenged the Florida Department of Revenue on that and actually won. I actually beat City Hall, if you believe it or not. I convinced a Democratic governor, Lawton Chiles in Florida, to sign an executive order temporarily exempting sales tax on internet access. That gave me time to work on the Florida legislature, so I found a couple of representatives in the House and the Senate and went to work. We did a bill that made it permanent. So our state was the first state to not require sales tax on internet access. As a result of that, almost every other state in the country adopted our bill and passed bills similar. And that's why none of us pay sales tax on internet access.
Oh, wow.
So you think about how much money that has stayed in the economy because of that. Otherwise, it would have gone to governments.
Okay.
So in addition to that, at the same time, I founded the Federation of Internet Service Providers Association with a few other guys. I gathered a few internet providers like myself because I knew that the government would want to, you know how the government is. When something new comes along, they want to kill it.
And have all the money and destroy
that's
it.
right. So I knew that they would try to make the internet a utility. And if they had done that right at the beginning, I don't think the internet wouldn't be what it is today. And I believe in free market capitalism, so I wanted to keep it that way. So I formed this association, and we fought for things like that. We were able to convince most governments in most states, and then in Congress, keep your hands off the internet. You're going to kill it with regulations, and especially if you turn it into a utility, and we were successful. And many of the cyber laws that are in effect today are a result of our efforts in that association, and those were all generated with the theme of free market and no regulations, government, keep your hands off the internet.
So what did you used to do when you were in Florida? What did you do when you were in Florida?
Well, I basically ran my software business. I sold software to businesses that were mainly distributors that had emphasis on order entry, inventory control, and of course we had an accounting package behind it. So sold it all over the country, and also did custom software for various businesses. One of my customers was a national check cashing chain. I wrote their complete point of sale system for them. So.
Did you do any lobby work?
Well, only as much as lobbying for the things that, like the internet tax. I also lobbied for less telecommunication tax because in '98 I raised substantial amount of money and started another company, which was one of the first voice over IP phone companies, and I basically retired from that one.
So if you're elected this time around to legislator, what is one thing that you hope to accomplish in the Nevada legislature?
Well, one thing is kind of help the legislators that are up there understand how some of the laws that they're going to pass can hurt businesses, because if you hurt businesses, you're going to kill jobs. It's going to hurt the economy, of course, and ultimately the families, and that's what I'm interested in. I want the families to succeed. I'd like to get back to where maybe one person works in a family instead of two, and then each one of them have 3 part-time jobs like they are now. I want to get back to having really good quality jobs and help the economy, and I think I can do that with my business experience.
One thing, that we were talking about before you came on was the NV Energy and the breakup of
Right.
it. So, going into legislator, and I know you've served there before,
Yep.
that's something that it's going to affect us greatly.
Absolutely. That's one of the bills I'm going to try to champion if I get up there in this next session, and it's to bring free market to the energy sector. I don't know about you, but my electric bills have gone up, and I've used less electricity. So I want to bring competition into the market, see if we can affect that change, and that's what I did in Florida with the telecommunications industry. I did the same thing there because in '93 the telecommunications industry had a bill passed by Congress that kind of broke it up and allowed people like myself a competitive local exchange carrier. So I was actually a phone company. So it allowed me to come in and use the current infrastructure, because that's going to be the battle. Because NV Energy, they own all the copper, all the wires that are in the ground, and we have to have some mechanism that allows competitors to come in and use it. Of course, we're going to pay them for it,
Right.
like I did with the phone companies, with Bell South. Whenever I drop a call off to a customer that was a Bell South customer or anybody, I had to pay them for that, and vice versa, they would pay me. So we established that mechanism. We could do the same thing with energy, I think.
So let's break it down for listeners who may not know a lot about MV Energy and how the free market works, because I lived in Texas and we had something very similar to that. Is that
So you had competition in Texas, so you
We
could
did.
choose what provider you wanted your electric from?
exactly? I lived in Magnolia, Texas, right outside of Houston,
Mm-hmm.
and you had like 3 or 4 companies to choose from.
Right.
And
That would be nice. Competition lowers prices for us, for consumers, and so that's what I want to bring to the energy market.
So
And
you're a supporter of solar energy, right?
I like solar energy. Yeah, I'm not sure. The subsidies kind of bother me a little bit. I mean,
so?
I think they need some help a little bit, maybe, but
What would you do to
not
twerk it?
Not like that.
Or tweak it?
Tweak it.
Did I say twerk it?
You twerk it.
Okay,
I don't twerk, but yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's the devil's in the details, and you just have to get into it and try to figure out. You got to make it fair. You don't want to stifle a business like the internet. We didn't want to stifle it, but you want to help it also. And even with the internet, we didn't have any subsidies because we just built it, and we did common sense things, and that's what I think we need to do with the energy sector.
So basically, is that why you're running?
That's
Because
one
of
of the
cronyism?
Yeah, and I think we've drifted away from free market capitalism, and I think we ought to get back to that, because that obviously I'm on the side of free market capitalism. I'm not a Keynesian type politician like most Democrats.
So what are your boundary lines?
Oh, and 37,
Uh-huh.
yeah. It goes from, we'll start out west, Summerlin Parkway, the intersection of Summerlin Parkway and 215.
Okay.
And we'll go north to Cheyenne, and we'll go east to Fort Apache, and we'll go north to Lone Mountain,
Okay.
and east almost to Rancho, believe it or not. And then we go south to Smoke Ranch, right here. This is actually in my district.
Right.
Then we go west, and we kind of jog around. It's kind of a real curvy district or line back to Summerlin Parkway, but it kind of goes through Desert Shores and around the trail section back Anasazi, Crestdale actually, to Summerlin Parkway. So we've got about my district now is about half and half. I think we're 100+ Republicans over Democrats.
So you need independents and libertarians.
Well, it would help. I mean, in my district, fortunately, the Republicans turn out. We do turn out.
And you had a very heated primary, didn't you?
I did, absolutely. Yep,
Yeah,
I beat the incumbent, which was very, very tough,
Right.
and I think it was 63 to 37%.
And congratulations
Yeah,
for
well,
that.
thanks. I appreciate it. I worked hard.
And you know veterans in politics
Yep,
endorse you.
yeah, I absolutely, and I definitely appreciate that, and it's that is displayed proudly on my website.
I
So,
saw it the other
yeah.
day.
So won the primary. It was tough. I worked hard. I did everything that you're supposed to do to win. Walked a lot. Did all the.
Lose any weight?
I did.
Yeah, how much?
But
you
I've
lost?
gained it back
You look
How'd you
good,
get it?
something
How'd you
like
get it back?
because I quit walking after the election.
we got
but
a
I've-
general to do.
But I've started now. I'm back walking now.
Okay.
I walked this morning,
Okay.
and I'll probably walk this afternoon also. Believe it or not.
So how would you convince Democrats to go out to the polls and vote for Jim Marchant?
Well, I'm kind of like it's hard to say that I'm a Republican or Democrat. I'm for common sense stuff.
So you're a common sense guy.
Yeah,
You know,
and-
that should be a new party. Common sense.
I
party.
know. Well, it
Well,
should.
we have the smallest party ever. Then if we
And
were
I'll
the
tell you a
Common Sense
story. I
Party.
was-
You gotta take a litmus test to get in.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I was walking for the primary, and I knocked on a door, and it was a Democrat guy.
Uh-oh.
And boy, he lit into me. He says, "You conservatives have screwed up everything, and da da da, whatever." And I said, "Whoa, wait a minute." I said, "All right, well, what is it upsets you about conservatives?" So he'd talk about it, and I would say, "Well, we're not that far off."
Uh-huh.
So by the time I left there, he says, "Hey, you got my vote." So
Really?
yeah,
Before you were a screw up, and now he's voting for you.
that's right.
Imagine that.
I'm telling you, yeah.
Oh wow.
So that's
you should be a sales guy. Are you sales? You
I
got
was-
sales in your?
yeah, that's all I did. That's what I did.
So now
I had
you're
to-
selling yourself.
I had to sell. Yeah, so I had to sell my software and goods, and
Right.
and now just sell myself. But if you really think about it, we're not that far off.
Right.
And people that really are reasonable and common sense, believe in common sense, you were pretty close.
Right.
I mean, there's going to be radicals on both sides, right? But I'm not that way.
So if you had to leave a 5-second lasting memo for voters why they should vote for you, what would that be?
Well, kind of what I just said. I'm kind of, I'm for the people. I'm for policies that help businesses, because businesses are the engine that drive the economy. And if our economy's good, everybody's happy. Right now, it's terrible. I'll give you an example. I mean, we're talking about the commerce tax. I have a good friend of mine here in Nevada, actually Las Vegas, owns a very large company. And this commerce tax is going to raise his tax liability last year from $20,000 to $1 million. Wow. So he told me, he said, I was just about, for the first time in 5 years, we're kind of turning the corner a little bit. And for the first time in 5 years, I was thinking about giving my employees a raise. He says, I can't do that now. So that hurts the people. I mean, think about, and these are, I'm trying to think, I think it's around 2,000 employees aren't going to get a raise.
What would you say to those people who come out and say, oh, all these businesses, they are getting all these tax breaks and they don't deserve them and they don't pay their fair share of taxes?
Businesses don't pay taxes, people do, because businesses pass it on. They have to.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they may write a check, they're they have to get the money back. So they're
Right.
going to raise the cost of their goods and services. So businesses don't pay tax in effect. I mean, they really do, but for all intents and purposes, they pass it on to us.
So do you have any BDRs that you want to
Yeah, a
propose?
couple of them. The energy one would be a good one. For Second Amendment, I'd love to get the campus carry passed
Okay.
next session. And let's see, what else? I'd like to do a little more with ESAs, strengthen them, and maybe even do some more programs that promote free market in the education system. Let's see, what else?
You better say Veterans Court.
Well, there you go. That's right, Veterans Court. Yeah, we would.
I was about ready
we
to
would
come
def-
on over there, Jim.
we would do something with that too. Yeah, that would be great. Matter of fact, you can help me with that.
Okay. Hey, I'm thinking of a BDR, and it's to make all city attorney seats elected instead of appointed. Or would you
Yeah,
do something like that?
Possibly. Yeah. In general, along with the cronyism theme, I'm not a real fan of appointees because if you have somebody that is the appointer or the one that's going to appoint and they're bad, then you've got the cronyism issue. So, but then on the other hand, we haven't done a real good job of electing people lately either. So I agree with you. It's a problem. We do need to find a solution, and so I'm definitely willing to work towards that. Yeah.
I agree with you on that, about how we haven't done a great job about electing people. How do you think we change that?
Well, as everybody knows, it's money. In my primary, I didn't get any money from any of the Republicans. Matter of fact, the leaders of our party fought vigorously against me and spent tons of money. I had a lot of nasty hit pieces.
Who'd you beat, by the way?
Glenn Trowbridge, who was the current assemblyman for District 37. And
He was appointed.
He was appointed, actually. Yes, he was appointed by 7 Democratic county commissioners. And the reason he was appointed was because Wes Duncan, who was a great assemblyman for District 37, was tapped to go up and be with Adam Laxalt in the Attorney General's office, number 2
Do you think
up there.
they should have appointed somebody that was more like Wes Duncan, more of a conservative nature instead of a liberal?
Well,
nature?
actually, that would have been great. We did have somebody. There were a number of people that were candidates for that, but they didn't choose them. And one of the reasons is, and this is a third rail, and I hate to even bring it up, but it's the PERS, the Public Employment
Employees
Retirement System, right? And one of the requirements from the county commission was that, hey, you have to be a champion for PERS on our side, and you're not going to touch it. So obviously he agreed to that,
Right.
and our side, wouldn't agree to it. So that's why he was appointed, I believe.
Why didn't your side agree with PERS, if we're going to bring it up?
Well, PERS is county and city employees pay 0 towards their retirement. We as taxpayers pay 100% of it almost. There may be a few exceptions. The state employees, they pay 14% towards their employment or their retirement. And then the state matches 14%. So they
Isn't
get
how it's supposed to be,
28%.
matching funds? You
Right,
put up
right.
half,
Exactly,
we put up half.
Exactly. Now,
it's so you could have some kind of gain in the stakes. So to
exactly,
speak?
you've got skin in the game.
Yeah.
So, when PERS was originally negotiated for the city and county, the employees agreed to take a lower wage in lieu of it because they were going to get other benefits and things like that. But that has gone out the window, and their salaries have now skyrocketed. And I think we're only 70% funded. We're 30% unfunded, I believe, towards the retirement. And we'll be like Detroit if we keep going. We've got to fix this problem. And last session, actually, Ron Connect, our controller, who you might know, actually had a pretty good budget and a bill that could have been passed that didn't raise taxes, certainly didn't do the ridiculous commerce tax. The only thing it did that they really objected to, and that our side objected to it, the governor, was he was going to ask that the PERS go from 0 to 7%, not even go all the way up to match the state employees. Wouldn't hear it.
Wow. I heard you mention cronyism.
Yeah.
I cannot
Cronyism.
speak today. But what do you think about nepotism in judges?
Oh.
Same judges, husband, wife, on the same bench at the same time.
That could be a problem, I guess. Yeah. I haven't really thought about it, honestly, but
I got another bill for you then.
Okay. All right.
Would you be interested in putting a BDR saying that immediate family members cannot sit on the same district court or whatever, justice court, municipal court, or even assembly or any of the legislative positions at the same time?
I could look at that and see. Can't really say now. I mean, I really need to look at it and evaluate it, but it's something that I would do.
Isn't some businesses you can't have a husband and wife? You got a CEO and a CFO, husband and wife on the same company.
Oh, no,
Wouldn't that be a
happens all the time.
problem?
No, that happens all the time.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they keep it
yeah.
in the family.
It's family.
Unless it's a
businesses.
family business.
yeah.
But if it's a corporation, like say Sam's, for
Well,
example.
Speaking of Sam's or Walmart, that was a huge family. I mean, so
No,
they.
not Sam's. Sand. The Sand.
Oh,
Sands
Sands. Oh, I'm
Corporation.
sorry.
yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know how that's structured.
Okay.
But I mean, if it leads to, corruption and doing bad things, I'd certainly look at it. Yeah.
All right. So what would you tell the listeners to go to the voting booth and vote for you, Jim
Well,
Marchant?
Like I said, I'm a free market capitalism guy. I believe in fixing the economy first and foremost. We've talked about the corruption, or not corruption, the cronyism issue, and you know what? Actually, there is a lot of waste, corruption in our government. I know of when I've been out walking, I've talked to 2 or 3 people that work in the government, and they've told me what goes on in there and the waste and the fraud, and it's frightening.
Right.
So I wouldn't mind doing something to address that, maybe a citizens task force or something like that. Let them come forward anonymously and expose this, because it's millions and millions of dollars that could be going to children, our schools, and it's going to people that aren't very good. I'll just leave it at that. So, I think everybody needs to get out and vote. This is one of the most important elections. I believe it's the most important election in my lifetime.
Okay.
And we need to vote common sense people, and in my opinion, business people that know how to run things into office. And nationally, what's going on there. We have Supreme Court justices that are probably going to be picked, so we have to do the right thing there.
Okay.
So anyway,
Do you
so
have a
that's
point of contact?
point of contact is you can go to my website, jimmarchant.com, JIMMARCHANT.com, and it's got all my contact information on there. I can answer any questions if anybody wants to volunteer. Certainly we could use money.
Do you have any events coming up that people could get together, donate?
I do. I have a bunch of fundraisers coming up. Nothing set in stone yet, but obviously right now all I'm doing is walking and fundraising. So
Walking, talking, kissing babies.
that's it.
All right.
So-
So, folks, that's Jim Marchant, who's a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District number 37.
37.
And
right.
thank you so much for coming on the program, Mr. Marchant.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I look forward to coming on here because I saw all my other friends doing it. So I said, well, I need to be on there.
Oh, just follow the leader type deal?
Yeah.
All right. This is Steve Sampson and Christina Ortiz with Veterans of Politics. Don't go away, folks. We have Richard McArthur, who's a Assembly candidate for Nevada State Assembly District number 4. We'll be right back. Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sampson, Christina Ortiz. We're Veterans of Politics. We have Richard McArthur, who's running for State Assembly District number 4. What commercial was John playing there?
I don't know.
That wasn't part of my commercial
But
lineup.
I like his World War II commercials.
It wasn't a World War II commercial. It was one of those old Stanley Gibson commercials, I
like
think
them.
it was.
Anyways, so
We can talk about World War II if you want, but
I'm okay
Oh,
with
what, are
that.
you
No.
from that era?
not really. But that's why I wanted to talk about it with you guys, because I don't know anything about it.
Well, I was.
Mr. McArthur,
Yes, Steve.
could you give us a bio? Don't leave anything out.
Did you memorize it yet?
A little bit. No, I haven't had time to read over the things I've written down. Basically, I grew up in Northern California and went to college there, have a degree in economics. After I finished college, I joined the Air Force. I was in the Air Force for 6 years. I was a pilot. And then when I got out of that, my service duty, I joined the FBI. I was an FBI agent for 25
So
years.
you're a spook?
Should I sit next to you? Should
I
I
did some
move?
interesting things,
Okay.
if that's what the question was.
So I should move. That's what the question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And my last 15 years, I worked out of the Las Vegas FBI office.
Wow.
And then I retired here. And then it was after that, I was through with the government, so that's when I got into politics.
Oh, you
So you're
hold-
through
hold-
with the government,
wait.
so you got into
Yeah,
politics.
You're through with the government, so you go into politics.
Yeah, I
That
said,
makes
yeah,
sense.
I saw what went on there.
That makes perfect sense.
I didn't want
to
to.
me. Yes, yes.
So actually, I did get involved, and I was.
And what'd you do?
I was in the Assembly in the 2009-2011 session, and a couple of sessions and a couple of special sessions.
And what happened?
What happened?
Yeah. How come you're not still there?
This is Michelle Fiore took over the seat,
Uh-huh.
and we're friends. We didn't run against each other,
Right.
and she had it for a couple of sessions, and
Wh-
then
what did you
she
do?
called me.
Didn't you run for something? Didn't you
Oh.
run for state senate?
Yes,
Oh,
I did.
you're missing something there. You got to explain all that so people know why you left the assembly.
Did you get voted out? Did you get run
Yeah,
out?
did
One of
they
your
say
spook
you
friends
gotta
got
go?
you? I mean, really?
No,
Did you vacate the seat?
No, in fact, everyone wanted me to stay where I was, and I
Uh-huh.
thought I could do things a little better if I was in the Senate.
And who'd you run
Fewer
against?
people. Scott Hammond. Eh,
I'm not
okay.
saying anything.
Okay. Anyway, Michelle Fiore took over the seat,
Right.
and she was there for a couple sessions, and then she called me last year, and she said, I'm running for Congress. Will you get back in and do this?
Uh-huh.
And I said, yes. I was a little unhappy with things that have been going on up there, so
Right.
I
Well,
was
what-
willing to get back in.
All right. So
So what are you unhappy about?
what were you unhappy about?
Well, the two major things, of course, were
I mean, they didn't give lunch breaks. What happened?
Yeah, not
You didn't get a
enough nap
frequent
time.
flyer numbers. What?
You're coming close. No, you aren't even close at all. No, I was a little unhappy with the big, huge tax increase we had, and I was unhappy with them giving driver's licenses to illegals.
Right.
Those are people that aren't even supposed to be in the country, and they give them a privilege. I didn't
That
understand
pissed
how they
you
could
off,
do it.
huh?
Well, I don't know how it's helping the country
Right.
or the state.
Right.
So anyway, things like that. So I said, yes, I'll get back in and go back up to.
So,
Carson City.
Mr. McArthur. What do you? Let's start with the illegal driver. I mean,
The
illegal immigrants getting driver's license. Illegal driver's license. So what do you? Are you gonna try to repeal that or?
And how do we change
what?
that?
Well, I don't know how we're going to change it. The excuse I heard was the reason they gave them to make our roads safer. But of course, it
Oh.
won't make our roads safer.
Is that why they go on scooters now?
Well, I
They
don't think
can't
that's the
read
reason.
English
But
or the signs anyways.
well, see, that's the problem. They said, well, if they go out and get insurance on their cars, they'll be better drivers. Well, that doesn't make anyone a better driver.
No.
But yes, that is the one thing that makes it less safe, because all of our signs are in English, and they don't have to take that driving test in English. So
Really?
they don't have any idea if the road sign, if they're barreling down the freeway at 70 miles an hour and the sign says
55?
left lane closed due to work or something, doesn't mean a thing to them. They can just keep barreling down that left lane and 70 miles an hour.
Well, why do you think they put the test in Spanish if our roads are in English?
It's the same reason. I have no
Does
idea.
it make sense to you?
It doesn't make sense at all. Same reason we have a lot of our ballots printed up now in different languages.
So are you willing to go on
Technically-
that bandwagon with Jim Marchant and do the Common Sense Party?
Well, I'm certainly not going to start a new party, but because that won't work. But yeah, no, we got a lot of problems like that, and most everything that's done is for political reasons.
So if you get back in, God willing, what is the big change that you want in your legislative system coming back?
Oh, I don't know about a big change. I think the most important thing to most people are jobs and education. And one of the big things for me is illegals. Most people don't find that too fascinating, but it's been a few years since I looked up the statistics on this, but the state of Nevada spends over $700 million a year on illegals: education, healthcare, social services, law enforcement. That's tax money.
How about they just
going to
build a
help-
wall like Donald Trump says?
Well, that's not a bad idea. And so that's taxpayers' money to support people that really aren't doing us any good. And even those illegals that have jobs, they send half their money back to their home country. So it doesn't stay here to help our economy.
So you've worked in an amazing amount of fields, and you know a lot about immigration. What do you think the biggest immigration issue is facing this country, or the state, because that's really where you're running?
Yeah, well, number one, I don't know how anyone can say, yeah, it's okay for them to be here when, the United States is the freest, best country in the world. But we do have some laws and regulations. And so when you have elected officials that say, yeah, it's okay for them to be here, you have elected officials that are deciding which laws they'll support and which laws they won't support. And that's just a plain bad idea.
Right.
Just to begin with, without going into the technical reasons about the economy and the money we're spending on illegals. So I don't know how people get by that first part of, yeah, let's just not worry about the laws. We don't care. And Las Vegas is a sanctuary city too.
Yeah. So sorry, Christina. What bills?
I'm always in the middle of this, so.
Well, help him out because I'm not sure what he's trying here.
Actually, my next question is,
Sorry,
immigration's
Steve.
a big one, and education's the next big one. And the next big one facing the Senate legislator and is in courts right now is the ESAs. How do you feel about the ESAs?
No, I think it's a good idea. We need competition for our schools. So I'm fully
Do you
in favor
think it
of the
interferes
ESAs.
with the Constitution?
No, I
religious
really
schools?
don't. I'm buying the language that people are using, that basically it's money given to the taxpayers, the parents, and they can choose what they want to do with that money.
Right.
So we'll have to see what the courts say about that.
I want to know. I want to know what makes you a Republican. How do you view a Republican? Because you ran a very heated primary race too,
Yes,
right?
it was a tough race,
Okay.
but that was a primary, and we were both Republicans, and we both called ourselves conservatives, I guess.
Really, both of you did.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, what makes you a
But
Republican?
we never talked politics in my home growing up.
Okay.
It never, but I've always been for the things that the Republicans really agree on. I mean, less government, less taxes, anything that'll improve jobs, that sort of thing, and business. Because, people don't understand that jobs and prosperity come from business, not government. So you don't need to keep giving more money.
I always wanted to ask this question to a Republican, and because it was one of the questions people were hitting me with when I ran for assembly against your friend Paul Anderson.
Yes.
It was about abortion, okay, and I don't know what that had anything to do with the seat I was running for, and it was about the Republican platform on life, right, and instead of pro-choice, and my thing is, the way I'm thinking, the Republican platform is less government. If you want less government, why is it that government is in your bedroom and telling you what you can or can't do with one's body? That never made any good sense to me.
But you're going to ask me anyway.
I want to know if you could help me make sense of this all.
No, it's just someone trying to cause trouble. And really, because some of the social issues, a lot of Republicans, would rather stay away from that sort of thing.
Right.
So I'm not sure why they even asked you that. Are you going to all Republican doors? Are you sure it was all Republican doors you were knocking on?
Yeah,
because I never had anyone come close to a question
because
like
Democrats couldn't vote in that. It was just because it was just 3 Republicans running, and it was over in the primary.
that. But every now and then you knock on a door and it isn't
No, they were
who your
Republicans.
address were. But what were they looking for?
They were looking for answers.
No, but I mean, were they for one way or another? Because no one ever asked me that question.
They were all pro-lifers in there. I was way outnumbered. There was no pro-choicer in there at all. It was all pro-life. So, and that's what I brought up to them. I said, you guys, I said the Republican platform is less government, but yet, don't you think it's an intrusion on the women, especially going into her bedroom, telling her what you can or can't do with the kids. And I said, the Republican platform talks about pro-life, but yet they'd be the first one to press that electric button. They believe in death penalties. So I'm just trying to make sense of it. And for the life of me, I just couldn't.
Tell them what you really believe.
And they said, well, that's an innocent child. And I said, well, are you going to pay for it? Because, Republicans, you're conservative, you want to hold on to your money.
Right.
You don't want to give it away to support somebody else's kid, right? So, again, it doesn't make sense. So I was just lost.
Yeah.
I was just confused
So
as
we're
hell.
going to let Steve stay lost because he spends a lot of time there anyways. And I'm
Oh, you did not diss me on public, John.
Don't leave that in.
We're going to let Steve stay lost. And we're going to move on to, with Jim Marchant, we were talking about the NV Energy and the free, and having a free market with that and capitalism. What do you think about that?
I'm same way. I'm conservative, and I believe in the free market system. So anything we can do to push that thing along is fine with me. The solar industry, I'm fine with that too. They do give a lot of subsidies, and that's some government stepping in. So,
Right.
Technically, it really isn't cost effective right now. But I'm still in favor of.
Because I do actually like solar energy. My parents have a very old house way up near the old southern part of Summerlin. And they installed the solar panels, and it did cut down on their bills. And so but how do you feel? If we were to tweak it, would solar energy be more effective use for many people in the valley?
Oh, well, I'd like to see it. The people that want to use it, that's fine. And some of them use it just because they think it's better for the environment, so they don't care about the money. But most people are putting it up because they want to save money on their electrical bills. And so that's fine with me.
What are your boundary lines, by the way?
For my district.
For your district, yes.
We just jump from one topic to
I know,
another.
we just jump all over the place here. You got to keep on your toes. You were
I'm
in the
working
Air
on
Force,
it.
right? You were a
Yes.
pilot, right?
Yes.
Or were you a fighter pilot?
Well, not exactly.
You got to keep on your toes.
See,
See, that's the
working on
difference
it.
between the Air Force and the Marine, is that we could
No,
adapt and
you
overcome.
didn't. And we always had to come back and help you
No,
guys.
we could adapt and
Look
overcome.
at down there. They're in trouble. Yeah, okay, we'll go in and save them.
So,
Okay,
your
what was the
boundaries,
question?
your boundary
Boundaries.
lines.
Jim Marchant's and my districts bump up against each other.
Okay.
Basically, in mine, if you start around Lone Mountain, actually the mountain itself, you go a little bit south from there, and then you run into Jim's on Cheyenne.
Right.
And then also you go north, and you go north across 215, you go up around the Providence area, all the way up to that Sky Canyon area.
Okay.
Now, on Wallapai, if you go west, those people that live there are actually part of Pahrump. I guess they need a bigger population. But you go on the east side of it, well, that's why they did it. You go to the east side, and that's in my district. And so it covers all that area up there. And then also around...
Do you have Mount Charleston, by the way?
No, it stops right actually Kyle Canyon. There's a point that comes
Okay.
right up there, right at the freeway. Not too many homes right there, though.
Hey, do you remember they wanted to put those houses?
I was curious.
Do you remember
about
they wanted to put
lines.
those houses in Casino on Kyle Canyon? Do you remember that?
They
bought all that property. Back
it's
in
it's still
04?
up there, so you can. Yes.
Oh, really? It's still zoned for that?
There's a big sign up there. It says, casino.
Oh, wow.
As soon as you turn off on Kyle Canyon off the freeway,
You think that's a
right
good
there in
idea?
the left. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a private property. The
Okay.
casino can put it in if they want to.
Okay. Okay.
But anyway, just quickly to finish up the one thing we keep jumping around. The district is a
Am I
little
confusing
funny. No, I was trying to stay up with the different questions here. Lone Mountain, the actual Lone Mountain and Ann Roads, if you take that all the way east, it goes all the way to Decatur.
Okay.
And it covers the big Painted Desert and Los
Okay.
Prados districts.
So how are you going to have Democrats vote for you in the general election?
When I ran before, you don't get Democrats to vote for you. The only Democrats that voted for me were ones that actually knew me, that I either talked
Friends
to,
of
worked
yours?
with, or friends or something like that.
You don't knock on their doors?
And then, no,
You got to knock on their doors.
no.
So
They-
what's
So
the
the people that-
demographics then?
Demographically, there's about 150 more Democrats than Republicans in my district
You're going to
now.
have to knock on their doors.
I'm going to knock on all the everyone other than Democrats. There's 7,000 independents.
Oh, so you're going to go to their
So
doors.
I'm going the independents and American and libertarians. So there's three
Okay.
other big groups.
Gotcha.
But it's like Republicans and Democrats. Most people stay with their party. And like I said, the Democrats that voted for me were people that knew me.
You have there's some truth in that statement, because I know when we endorse candidates, our biggest numbers of endorsed candidates that actually win their seats are nonpartisans. The judges and the board of trustees, stuff like that. We have a bigger victory with the nonpartisans than we do in the partisan races.
It's a big percentage. It's in a lot of the districts. It's anywhere from 15 to 20% are nonpartisan. So if they come out and vote, they can make a big difference. The only thing is, you're not sure how they're going to vote.
That's true.
So that's why you're going to try to talk to them.
That's true. Do you have agenda to go up to Carson City on 2017? You have something on the sponsor?
Not really an agenda. I mean, it's like everything else. The things we mentioned were jobs and education and illegals. But then you have to talk to the other people and find out what BDRs have already been put in.
Right.
That's the problem.
Explain what BDRs is so the listeners will know what they
Oh, those are the things that we put in that determine what the bill is.
Right.
And so there's a lot of, and the incumbents, they've already put in a bunch of bills.
Right.
What they want. So you got to check to see what have already been put in. But, I put one in before that I'd really like to put in again if nothing's happened to it, and that's to cut down the number of bills we have. At the time, I checked.
You need a law to cut down the number of laws you want to pass.
Well, yeah. At the time, I checked, and I think Congress back in Washington that year that I checked, they passed, I think it was someplace around 109.
Right.
We go, and that's for a full year. We look at over 1,100 in 3.5 months and pass just under 600 in 3.5 months. You cannot read all the bills. And I was one of the people that tried to read all the bills. You just can't. If they try to tell you they do, you can't. It's too many bills.
Aren't you going to have a staff?
And then
Don't you have a staff?
No, you have one person
Who's that?
working for you.
What's their job title?
Well, it's like a secretary, but
That's
So
it?
I have then
But
my
that's-
next question.
oh, okay. Did we
It's
finish
not
that
that
enough for you?
scary.
Go ahead.
No, the biggest, maybe you can tell me if there's any truth to it or not.
Okay.
From what I've heard, that legislators, they will pass the laws to make their constituents happy, but then they just won't fund them. How do we get through that?
Unfunded mandates.
I really haven't heard too many laws.
Yeah, like the
that.
Veterans Court.
They have, well, some of those things, they want to put them through, and they know they don't have the money. Everyone knows they don't have the money, and they think it's a good idea. So sometimes they'll pass it.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they're trying to do it and they won't fund it.
Right.
They just didn't have the money to fund it to begin with.
Okay.
And so it's not like they didn't want to.
So how do we, cut down and say, if you don't have the money, then don't put the law through?
There'd be a lot
Because
of people fine with that, but most people don't like that because they want their bill to go through. And if it's something that's good and everyone agrees on, they should fund it.
Right.
But the problem is
We don't have the money.
sometimes they have to decide where the money's going to go. So you just can't keep raising taxes forever.
No, and we don't want taxes raised at
No,
all. And
that's
I
right.
don't want bills that are passed if you're not going to fund them. If you can't go through it with all the way, then just be straight up and honest and say, you know what? Yeah, this is a great idea. We can't afford it.
I completely agree, but we had the same reason.
Like that new car I want.
That's right. We had yes. No, and that's the reason that I wanted to have less bills up there. You just can't read them all,
Right.
and then they push through a lot of bills that don't mean anything. But there's people that I guess they just want their name on a bill.
Yeah.
So if you have a good bill and you can pass it, even though it's not funded, it's going to be hard to have people not vote for it.
So
That's the
Mr.
problem.
McArthur, could you take a few seconds and convince the listeners why they should go to the booth and vote for you?
Yeah. Well, I've lived here for 36 years, raised my family here, my kids here, and they've all gone to school here. So I understand some problems about the education system. So I would really like to improve those sort of things I've talked about. And the way I vote, I try to vote what's going to be best for our state and the district I represent. And I admit that most of my votes come out pretty conservative, but I don't go into anything saying, I'm going to vote conservative on this. But that's the way my voting usually comes out. But I'm just basically for what's ever going to make more jobs here, make our education system better here, make our streets safer here. And if someone's got a good idea, you know, even if it's not a Republican, sure, I'll back
So
that.
you have an open door policy.
I haven't opened. I'll talk to anyone, but people say, "Well, you don't usually go our way," and I usually don't because I don't believe in,
Right.
you know, what they're saying.
Okay. You still working out at that gym?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't
don't.
see you.
I don't see you there anymore, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's probably what the problem is.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Could we have your point of contact, Mr. McArthur?
It's not on any of these, is it?
Trying to help you out.
I know it.
You have a
The
website?
website, McArthur,
Spell it.
fornevada.com.
Spell it.
4 is
The number
the
4?
number. Everything else is spelled out. And then the email is richard@McArthur4nevada.com.
You have
And
a-
that's the 4.
Campaign number?
Um,
Your personal cell number? Your home number?
I have, let me see what number I have on here. 702-396-1065. That's the phone that I just used for.
It's a burn phone, huh?
It's, yes.
Oh,
Mhm,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
At my home with a machine on it, yes. That I only use for politics.
I thought it was a burn phone. One of
No,
those
no,
things you're
that's
gonna
on
throw
my
away.
that's on my card. That's just only what I use.
Because you know who
for.
used burn phones, right?
Are we going to start another topic?
Mr. McArthur, it's a pleasure, and I've known you a number of years.
Yes.
Now. How long we known each other?
Well, ever since I probably got into politics many years ago after I retired here.
That's way too long.
Yes, I know.
You know, you owe me a lunch or something.
That was my line a long time
Okay.
ago, yes.
Well, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much, guys. Fun talking to you.
That's Richard McArthur, candidate for Nevada State Assembly District number 4. This is Steve Sampson, Christina Ortiz with Veterans in Politics. Until next week.